Hello everybody, welcome to tonight's live stream. I think we're at number 107 now. I'm going to start off with a song. It's called Fiji. I hope you like it. Instrumental piece. Alright, well there you have it, folks. Let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. It's always interesting to see where everyone is listening from, because you know we're a global world these days. Music streams everywhere, and I'm grateful to have the chance to play some songs for you all on a pretty regular basis. I've been doing them every 2 weeks or so lately, and I always appreciate those that tune in. What was your inspiration behind this song? I wrote that song when I was in Fiji. Fiji's not too far from Australia, and we went over there with my family probably 5 years ago now or so, and I had this nylon string guitar that someone had and said, "Here you go, Joe, check this out and play this." And so I picked it up. It was old beat up guitar, and I wrote that song on it in like 10 minutes. And it always makes me think of being there in Fiji. Central Indiana. Any plans to head up this way with that guitar? I do not have any plans to be in Central Indiana, unfortunately, but I am going to be in Sellersville, Pennsylvania, weekend after this coming one, in Rochester, New York at the Rochester Jazz Festival, and in Buffalo, New York at the Sportsman's Tavern, which is a real cool music venue. I played there before. Speaking of upstate New York, here's a Bob Dylan song for you all. I think you'll recognize this one. It ain't no use to sit and wonder why, babe. If you don't know by now, it ain't no use to sit and wonder why, babe. It'll never do somehow. When your rooster crows at the break of dawn, take a look out your window, I'll be gone. You're the reason I'm a-traveling on. Don't think twice, it's alright. It ain't no use in turning on your light, babe. That light I never know. It ain't no use in turning on your light, babe. I'm on the dark side of the road. Still I wish there was something you would do or say to try to make me change my mind and stay. We never did too much talking anyway. Don't think twice, it's alright. It ain't no use in calling out my name, girl, like you never done before. Ain't no use in calling out my name, girl, I can't hear you anymore. Thinking and I'm wondering as I'm walking on down the road. I once loved a woman, a child I'm told, gave her my heart, but she wanted my soul. Don't think twice, it's alright. So long, honey, baby. Where I'm bound, I can't tell. Goodbye's too good a word, baby. So I just say very well. I ain't saying you treated me unkind, could've done better, but I don't mind. Kinda just wasted my precious time. Don't think twice, it's alright. Don't think twice, it's alright. Good fun. Tunes like that try to make you smile. Listening from Ecuador, says Lynn. Too cool. Alright. Good evening. If you need a magic wallet that produces $50 per day or $500,000, I'm available to help you. Contact me on WhatsApp. You know, it's a good litmus test for social media. Well, there's so much spam on social media these days. It's really wild. So, of course, ignore all that. Ignore any messages that come from Joe Robinson fan, anything that says Telegram, anything that says anything other than, well, I don't really say anything, really. I'll just like what you say. And if you're gonna come on my page like some people do and just spew trash, you get blocked. Michael says, bought a Maiden or Blackwood 808 a week ago and loving it. Very cool, Michael. They're great guitars. I love playing mine every day. John McFarlane says, listening to you from New Zealand. Tony Z says, sounds great. Hello from Vegas. Casey says, currently laying down out in the middle of nowhere looking at the stars and watching and listening to the live stream. That's a great image, Casey. I hope you're well, mate. Alright, this is a tune called The Rush. This will be a good test to see how warmed up I am today. Alright. Saw a comment asking about my guitar pickup settings. And the truth is, when I'm playing right now, I'm not even plugged in to the pickup. So I'm just playing through a microphone. And I do have a little bit of reverb that I can turn on or off here. And that's about it. When I do play live, I make good use of my Maiden pickup. And I have a video on YouTube. If you just type in Joe Robinson Maiden settings, I'm sure it'll come up, where I talk about the settings I use and how I work the pickup. Alright. This is a song that is from my Borders album, which is from 2020. And I wrote it about my wife, Genevieve. Hope you like this song. I wanted to say that if you enjoy the music, we have a virtual tip jar, or I have a virtual tip jar, I should say. And if you want to leave a tip, then I say thank you very much. No pressure. I always want these streams to be free for anyone who cares to listen. But the tip jar is there in case you want to support the music. I say thank you. goodbye. I fell for you before I knew your name. The way that the words fell from your lips, the feeling of your soft fingertips on my skin, I've never been the same. All that I need to learn, that I need to see is in your eyes. All that I plead and yearn for this world to give me realized. In this love I believe, Genevieve. Je t'aime, tu es ma joie de vivre. From all that I run, you are my reprieve. Right from the start, this restless heart you tame. All that I need to learn, that I need to see is in your eyes. All that I plead and yearn for this world to give me realize. In this love I believe, Genevieve. And I don't know anymore. Every day I've been searching for. And I don't even know who I was before you. That I need to learn, that I need to see is in your eyes. All that I plead and yearn for this world to give me realize. In this love I believe, more than I can conceive. Morning, noon, and eve, Genevieve. Okay. Well, here's a song that I wrote to kind of demonstrate the guitar's ability to play the bass line, the melody, and the chords all together. Chuck Carr says, "My dogs want to hear flea bites." Well, this one's for your dogs, Chuck. They read my mind. They knew I was going to play this. So I start off with the bass, going like this. And then the backbeat comes. Some chords. Melody. there we have it. All right, I'm going to switch to an electric guitar right now. I see a question that comes in saying, hey Joe, how do you stay comfortable on an electric guitar as well as an acoustic? Or how do you seem equally as comfortable? And I think that's something that's come with time, because I remember when it was a little bit of a scene change, switching from the acoustic to the electric, and it took me a while to figure out how to go between both and be comfortable. I think they require a bit of a different touch, and the more control you have over your touch as a guitar player, I think the more dynamics you'll have in the phrases that you play on the instrument. So I'd suggest maybe having an acoustic that's real easy to play, like almost feels as easy as an electric, and making your electric a little bit more difficult to play, maybe putting heavier strings on it, 11s or so. That being said, I have 10s on this guitar right now. This guitar has a really big neck. It has a bigger neck than my acoustic, so they have their own individual challenges. It really depends on the instrument, but anyway, I'm not going to keep rambling on. Marlo says, are you coming to CAST this year? No, I will not be at CAST this year, unfortunately. For anyone who's wondering what CAST is, it's the Chet Atkins Appreciation Society Convention. I came to CAST for the first time, I was like 16 or something like that. And I saw a post that said, looking forward to seeing you at the Tommy Emmanuel Guitar Camp. And I'm going to be at another camp in the future, but I won't be at Tommy's camp this year. I had to change my schedule, which I felt bad about, but it's all good. Didn't feel too bad. Here we go. This is Fine Line. 1, 2, 3. It's a fine line that we walk every day. There's a right and a wrong in everything we do and say. It's a fine line, runs through the heart of every woman, man and child, and everyone's got to do their part. It's a fine, fine line. It's a fine, fine line between the good and the bad, the truth and a fad. It's a fine, fine line. It's a fine line. There we dance in our dreams, all alone in the dark where we're planning our secret schemes. It's a fine line, those rules by we play. We slide 'em, we move 'em and lose 'em with our shades of gray. It's a fine, fine line. It's a fine, fine line between a win and a loss, the worth and the cost. It's a fine, fine line. All right. Well, it seems there's quite a few people interested in having a chat and having a bit of a chat about guitar playing. So I'll do that. Feels like a nice evening for it. So I saw a couple of questions come in. I'm trying to remember what they are. I'm not sure I can scroll down on my... Yeah, I have this chat app that doesn't allow me to scroll down, so I'm going to have to remember what you asked me. But I saw one question from Holly, who said, how do you set goals with your guitar playing? Relatively new to learning guitar, and I'm just wondering what to focus on. A bit overwhelmed with all the options. That's a great question. And generally, my big picture recommendation is laid out in what I call the 5 pillars of fingerstyle mastery. And I have a PDF where I go through that. So check out the freebies link below and read through that PDF. Basically, I recommend going through starting your playing journey with the first pillar, which I believe is kind of a basic technical foundation. So learning how to sit properly. I mean, I say properly, but just learning how to sit and fret the notes clearly. I have some exercises that I teach for that. But just having a very basic understanding of the technical aspect and the technical challenge of playing the guitar. And then I recommend learning some good songs. And it's great to have a teacher or coach, someone who can kind of recommend songs and show you songs and present songs that are well arranged. I have a beginner fingerstyle course in which I kind of provide that service. You can go to my teaching website, Invisible Technique, and check out my different courses I have if you're interested in that. But I definitely would put a lot of your focus on learning really good songs. And you want to find songs that are not too far out of your comfort zone that you're going to feel frustrated, but you want to be challenged in a nice way, in a way that feels satisfying once you've learned it. And I'd recommend practicing for short amounts of time, so maybe 15 or 30 minutes per practice session, and just trying to be really, really intentional and really deliberate about what you're practicing. I love practicing in front of a mirror. I love practicing with a metronome. And I think if you really concentrate and try to practice deliberately, then you're going to have a more effective time learning the instrument than if you kind of just noodle around. I think noodling has its place, and sometimes when I'm writing songs and being creative, there's a lot of noodling that goes on. But in terms of building the foundation for your guitar playing technique, I think that deliberate practice is really the method I like to use. I saw another question. I'm just trying to remember what it was about. It was a really great question. Joe, how do you feel about classical sitting position versus the way I sit? So for anyone who doesn't know, classical sitting position involves sitting like this, usually with a footrest like this, and playing like that. And I think that technique can be really beautiful if you watch someone like Julian Bream, Segovia, John Williams, people like that who play with that classical technique, then it's a real beautiful thing to witness. However, I think the mistake that some people make is they try to blend like a classical technique with an informal technique. And if you're going to be playing with an informal technique, which is the guitar on the right leg, and you're going to try to play with the classical left-hand position, you're going to have a very bent wrist like that. Because the classical technique insists that your thumb has to be on the back of the neck like that, which if you're sitting with the guitar on your left leg, then that is kind of a pretty neutral position for the wrist. You know? But if you put it on your right leg and you play like that, then your wrist is all overextended. So I recommend having a more neutral wrist when playing in the informal position. It's totally your choice whether to play in the classical position or the informal position. And to me, when I stand up, it's basically the informal position. If you were to play stand up with a classical position, you'd want the guitar neck to be quite a bit higher. And what else can there be to say about that? Classical technique insists that your fingers have to be perpendicular to the frets like that. You always play. However, if you want to play anything resembling the blues, then you're going to want some vibrato, which involves angling the finger, sometimes dramatically like that. So those are a couple of key differences. I really do think it's worth studying the best people we can and learning about their technique. So if you want to play with a classical technique, then watch Segovia. If you want to play with an informal technique, watch, I know there's so many great people. Tommy Emmanuel has been my primary mentor, and if you watch him play, it's just perfectly loose, perfectly relaxed. He's been playing for many, many decades and still has just flawless technique and flawless rhythm and groove. So anyway, the thumb will have to be on top of the neck. Yeah, with the thumb on the left hand, if you're playing in the classical position, then it's really not practical to use the thumb because you'd have to overextend your wrist in an awkward way. And it's got nothing to do with the size of your hands, really, because I mean, the size of the guitar neck kind of has more to do with it, to be honest. It's more to do with the mobility of the hands and the position you're playing in. So if you're sitting with the guitar on the right leg, then it's quite easy to put your thumb over the neck and have your wrist be relatively straight. I say it's quite easy to use the thumb on the left hand. Everyone finds it really awkward at first. Everyone finds it to be uncomfortable at first. It takes a while, but there's a real benefit to it because you can play like an F chord like that. And you can play all over the top. Or an A minor. Whereas if you were to bar those notes, it's just impossible to play the same thing. And that's just one example. I think the thumb is a really useful it's a useful part of the hand. Try not using your thumbs for a day, see how it feels. I'm just joking. Let me read some questions here. Rodney says, "Watch Joe Robinson play for a great invisible technique." Thanks, Rodney. I think my approach to technique is for it to be invisible, so that you really just hear the music and you hear the beautifully articulated notes. That's really my goal when I'm playing, is I'm listening to the notes and how well they're coming through the sound of my instrument, and I use my technique to express the music. That's why I called my teaching website invisibletechnique.com. So you can go to invisibletechnique.com if you want to check out my fingerstyle courses. Probably my best-selling series of courses. I have a beginner, intermediate, and an advanced fingerstyle series, and there's a lot to go through there. I also have a program called the Daily Exercises, in which I go through left-hand exercises I use for working on my left-hand technique. Exercises like that, as well as right-hand exercises that do not focus on fingerstyle. They focus on more of a alternate picking approach to the right hand. And I got a question about that picking from Scott Peck, who's one of the Invisible Technique students that I was on a call with earlier today. And he had a question about building speed. So let's talk about speed training for a moment. So one of the primary challenges of playing the guitar is training the hands to be relaxed, because the hands tend to want to tense up. And what we want to do is train the hands to be as relaxed as possible, playing with the lightest touch that is necessary to fret the note clearly with the left hand. So with the left hand, we want a nice light touch, but still have the notes be very clear. And with the right hand, we want to be able to play slow, fast, soft, or loud, and everywhere in between. So it's about training the hand to be able to play a pattern such as down, up, nice and fast, nice and soft, loud, what else? Slow, even slower, and to be able to start with up, down. Anyway, this is all very dry and kind of boring, and it doesn't sound very musical, and I totally can appreciate that, but it does allow you to express music in a more natural way if you have technical control of the instrument. And I'm not about just being this like technique, like this guy who's militant on technique. I think everyone has their own feel for the instrument, but the main principles are staying relaxed, staying loose, and training the hands to be able to play whatever you want them to play with nice, relaxed technique. So let's talk about speed. If I was to take this exercise, which is an exercise originally from John Petrucci that I adopted, and I teach in my daily exercises program and recommend it to people. Basically, if you play that with a metronome, and I slow it down to, let's say I start at 80 beats a minute. Here's my metronome here. So that's kind of a moderate tempo. And if I was to speed that up to, the way I would practice it is basically start really slow. So start at maybe 60 and then speed it up to 64, 68, 72, just another 4 beats or another 6 beats every time you play the exercise, and really focus on trying to get it to be really even and smooth and connected. My little chat batteries here is on 1%, so I'm going to keep riffing on this, but I might not see what you're saying, so I apologize. So you speed that up until you get to about 90 to 120. That range from 90 to 120 beats per minute, I find is actually more difficult than the faster tempos. So to me, the challenging range is that mid-tempo kind of range. So let's set the metronome at 112, and I'll show you what that sounds like. Now, I think that's a pretty challenging tempo, because it's not quite like so fast that you can just get your hand going, but it's also not so slow that you can just pick each note kind of like you've always been picking. So let me speed it up to like 130, 132. Here we go, and I'll show you what that sounds like. To me, this is an easier tempo. Now, it might not feel easier to you if you haven't practiced the exercise a tremendous amount, but I'd recommend not being discouraged if you get to like 100 beats a minute and just feel like it's impossible to get beyond that. I'd recommend just bumping the tempo up to 120, 130, and then working in that range for a while. Let's see how fast I can do it. In my course, the Daily Exercises course on Invisible Technique, which I'm not really I didn't really do this live stream to promote the courses or anything, but I get up to 200, I think. So let's see how fast I can go without really warming up. 168. Let's see if I can do that. Here we go. I might fail dramatically. We'll see. Not totally clean, but kind of keeping up. Let's speed it up to 176. See, when I get up to that tempo, I can feel my hand tensing up a little bit. So what I do in that case is I will slow it down to a more comfortable tempo and just work there for quite a while, and then gradually speed it up and try to just focus on my hand, my right hand, and try and not have it tense up. So it's yeah, that's my advice for getting the speed going. All right, my chat just disappeared. I can probably pull it up on this computer. In fact, I'll do that really quick. Just bear with me for a second. Okay, now I'm watching myself on YouTube. That's a weird feeling. Sam Stamo says, goodness gracious. Well, you know, it's actually not as difficult as you may think. And I think that it's one of those exercises that sounds more tricky than it is. It's really just up and down. There are some exercises like sweep picking, for example. That's much more difficult, I think, to nail. How do you keep the pick from slipping? Even with the textured ones, I find it hard. So I've tried not to hold the pick too tightly, but I also try not to hold it too loosely. You have to kind of find a sweet spot in order to play an exercise like that. The picks I use for that kind of playing, like electric lead playing, the Dunlop Jazz 3s, which are real easy to find in any music store. You can find them, and they have a little bit of grip on them. Sometimes I use these blue chip picks for acoustic playing, and they don't really have grip, but they just feel pretty good in my hands. But I think it's just a matter of finding that sweet spot where you can hold the pick comfortably and not drop it, but you don't want to have like a death grip. You don't want to just hold it so tight that you put tension in your right hand. Get the Black Mountain pick that you can use in both. The problem for me with the Black Mountain pick, and I told the fellow who made them, I don't think they sound very good. I think the tone of them is not, to me, as good as the Dunlop. So that's why I couldn't get into them. I'm not seeing the Facebook comments. Well, I probably should wrap it up in a few minutes anyway. I should play a song. That's probably a good move. And if anyone enjoys the music in the chat, let me know. Hit the share button if you're on Facebook, and if you're on YouTube, hit the like button. David Platt asked a good question. Can you recommend any exercises for developing thumb independence? Yes, I definitely can. That's kind of my specialty. I love helping more people figure out the joy of fingerstyle guitar playing. And that's basically what my course is called, Complete Fingerstyle Guitar, on the Invisible Technique platform, which is my platform. You ask questions in those courses, I answer them. Complete Fingerstyle Guitar. I basically teach you how to play like these thumb exercises. So that is 5-4-6-4, 5-4-6-4 with the right hand. So string 5-4-6-4. The first step is to get comfortable with that. You add some chords like an A minor there. And then next step is to add what I call a string grab. So all that is using the top 3 fingers of the right hand to grab the strings. And you do that on the downbeat, so it's... Doesn't sound very exciting and it doesn't sound very difficult, but it is quite difficult for anyone who hasn't done that before. And the trick is, or the real important thing to focus on, is getting that bass thumb on the right hand to be really consistent. And no matter whether you want to play a walking bass, or you want to play like a funky bass line, or you want to play a pulsing bass line. So a walking bass would be like Flea Bites I played earlier. A funky bass line might be like Superstition. And a pulsing bass line might be... No matter what you're really planning on playing, these exercises are really a great way to develop that independence, because it's totally clear what to do. You just play this note, you play that note, you play this note, you play that note, and you try to master these patterns and get them to feel good. And from there, it's much easier to just play any fingerstyle guitar groove or style that you want. So that's how I'd recommend approaching thumb independence. So once you've kind of got like the basics down like that, it's about learning some good songs. So songs like Freight Train, Windy and Warm, Dot's Guitar, Baby's Coming Home. There's countless really good kind of fingerstyle traditional tunes, and I recommend finding some really good songs to learn that, like I said before, are not too out of your comfort zone that you're going to be frustrated. You're probably going to be frustrated a little bit. It's the nature of fingerstyle guitar, but you want to find something that's manageable. Maybe it's a short piece. All the pieces I teach are very short and concise and really specific about what we're playing, and very musical and fun. That's the goal. So from there, it's really about building the repertoire, because as you learn a lot of songs, you kind of cross-train your thumb to play all kinds of patterns, all kinds of different grooves, and the fingers are articulating melodies, and they're doing all kinds of different combinations. And so learning songs is a far better way to train the fingers to play fingerstyle guitar than just exercises. So I recommend just learning those patterns to begin with, and then learning a lot of songs. That's basically the way to do it, from what I know. David L. says, any tips for remembering the detail for each song? Yep, here's some good tips for that. At least I think they're good. I'm an expert on my opinion, remember? And I'm more than happy to share it with anyone who cares to listen. So for me, remembering songs is all about training the muscle memory in the hands. So the way to train that muscle memory is through a lot of repetition. And it really takes playing a song 50 more times than you think you need to play it. So I like to break down my new songs by as small chunks as I can stand. Sometimes it's a 4-bar phrase, and I'll play it over and over again. So maybe I'll play that one phrase that goes for 4 bars. I'll play it 20 times, and then I'll play the next 4 bars 20 times, and then I'll play the next 4 bars 20 times, and the next 4 bar 20 times. And then I'll do that every day for a week or two. So you just get to a point where you're playing the same thing and it's boring, it's repetitive, it's not particularly fun, because it requires a lot of focus to really concentrate on getting everything to be beautifully articulated, really smooth, really connected sounding. Maybe you're practicing with a metronome at a nice steady slow tempo in front of a mirror. That's how I like to do it. And by the time you've really drilled a song into all these little small sections, then when you perform it and you play it, it'll be that much more in the muscle memory, and you won't need to think about it as much. And muscle memory is really the key to kind of remembering songs, because it's really not about the brain remembering them. If I was to sit there and tell you what frets and what notes are in a song, I'd have to kind of real think about it, because it's all about the muscle memory to me. And I am aware of like the chord movement and the harmonic structure and what the melody sounds like, and beyond that, I've trained my hands to remember all the different intricacies of the arrangements that I do play. So there we go. David Platt says, I was hoping there was a point in development where you could just play what you hear. Yeah, I think there is absolutely a point where you get to play what you hear. And that to me is part of improvising, learning to improvise, and learning the fingerboard. Some people, I'm kind of learning this. Like, some people consider learning scales to be music theory, and I don't really consider that to be music theory. I consider it to be fretboard knowledge. Music theory to me is like the 1, 3, 5, and the flat third for a minor chord, and how to construct a dominant 7th chord, and how to construct a flat 9 chord, and that's kind of music theory. But like learning the major scale all over the neck. So if I take E major, for example, if you learn the major scale all over the neck, then take a good amount of time practicing improvising and finding all the sweet spots in that scale that you like. Like, I really like this move. That's a nice little melody, and maybe I'll embellish that. And sit there and play around with that scale a lot. When you hear a song, you'll learn to hear that you learn to hear the melodies in it, and that's kind of, to me, what learn to play whatever you hear is about. It's about familiarizing yourself with where those notes are on the neck. It's not about perfect pitch. It's really just about understanding how to play a melody that you hear using the scale that you've gotten very comfortable with. I have a theory on ear training that I'm going to be sharing a video on soon, but a lot of people encourage using ear training apps and that kind of thing, like to sit there and hear whether this interval is a major 6th and this interval is a 4th, that interval is a major 7th. I mean, I could not imagine Stevie Ray Vaughan sitting around listening to those tones thinking, that's a major 7th. I think the most important ear training is, your ear is the most important tool you have as a musician. It's so critical. It's everything. I was speaking with a gentleman today who plays piano, and I said, and I heard him play the guitar, and I said, I can hear that you developed your ear on the piano, and you really learned to hear music and hear what kind of sound you're getting. So when you picked up the guitar, you were already at a place where you were trying to get to that same level with the way you hear. Like, you're only as good as your ear as a musician, because if you can't hear when you're out of time, if you can't hear when you're out of tune, if you can't hear when you're not articulating the melody clearly, then you're not going to be able to do those things. And that's a big limitation for a lot of people. So I believe ear training is learning how to really hear what you sound like. and learning how to really focus on the melodic articulation of the way you play, your touch, your time, how tasteful the things are you're playing, getting comfortable with the scales. That's all part of it. But this kind of idea of like you go to music college and they ask you to, before they let you in the school, you have to be able to identify a major seventh and a fourth. And it's not that difficult to do, but I mean, people get really carried away with like identifying big chord voicings and all this, and all the college-educated musicians that, well, it's so common for me to work with a musician who's fresh out of college like that, and listen to them play and think, you don't even listen to the way you play. Like, there's no finesse in the articulation of what you play. Like, all that, you spent 3 years in school learning how to conduct and learning how to, the history of musicology and blah, blah, blah. And no one ever told you that your shoulders up like this and you're probably going to have a posture issue if you're just not relaxed when you play. And the melodic articulation, your timing is not right, is not strong. Like there's just so much to be said for really learning how to hear what you sound like. So anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox now. I'll just review these comments really quick. Oh, I see a comment there. I'm certain of those history books behind him. I own the entire collection, Will Durant's Story of Civilization. That's exactly what those books are. Well spotted, Sam. I have a couple of them turned around because they don't really match the color scheme of the room. And I was filming something, and my wife, who has a great eye for visuals and colors and whatnot, said that seafoam green book kind of just jumps out as being like a violation of the colors in the room. So that's why I have a couple of them turned around. But yeah, I have the series there. I think I've read the first 3 or 4. They're wonderful. I really, really love those books. Anyway, Dave Sharp says, I enjoyed the soapbox. I learned a lot. Thank you, Dave. All right. The green one is Napoleon. Yeah, that's the latest, the later book. Yeah, number 11, The Age of Napoleon. There are no shortcuts. I mean, well, I would interject that I think a shortcut is having a mentor. That's the best shortcut I know, is having someone who you can see and hear and learn from. That's gonna make it a lot easier than if you don't have someone like that, or if you have someone who's kind of like doesn't explain things clearly, or is confusing, or is not really well versed in the things, or doesn't, like I said, doesn't have an ear where they pull a beautiful sound out of their instrument. If you're learning to play from someone who doesn't have that ear, then it's gonna take you longer than if you sit with somebody. Like, I feel really fortunate that I got to sit with really great musicians when I was quite young, and I got to hear what they sound like, and that became my benchmark of what I was trying to do with my playing. And yeah, I really believe in the power of that kind of mentor-mentee rapport in music. I think it's really been the key to everything good that's happened in my musical development. And I feel very fortunate that really, really great people saw my passion and saw my genuine enthusiasm for playing and encouraged me and were kind to me. So that's kind of what I try to carry forward. And I enjoy talking about these things because I had the same questions and still do. It's always a work in progress. I'm going to wish you all a good evening. Thank you very much for tuning in to yet another live stream. Take good care. Anyone who's interested in learning more about my kind of guitar playing method and protocol, check out my Invisible Technique course platform, where I have a variety of courses. I have a complete fingerstyle guitar series, which is perfect for anyone who is wanting to develop their fingerstyle guitar skills. And I have a daily exercises course, which is perfect for anyone who wants to just learn some really kind of broad guitar playing exercises, the same exercise that I've been doing every day for years and years. 15 years, 20 years, something like that. I wish you all the best. Have a great rest of your week, and take good care.